Hi again. We have yet another telephone. This one caused me quite a surprise. I'll show you as I go through. Give you where it's come from. It's from the Soviet Union. It's made by VEF of Riga, and the model name is called a Bagta, B-A-G-T-A. Whether it's pronounced that, I don't know, but that's the spelling. Anyhow, let me tell you a little bit more about it. It's one I picked up because it had an unusual dial. Unfortunately, the dial is not working. The little spring inside has failed and it doesn't return. But it gives you an idea of that type of dial that was fitted on this phone. They did have other dials fitted. I'll show you the name on it. It's a well-known Soviet name, or from Riga. There's their trademark there on the top. Anyhow, I thought I'd have a little look inside, because obviously it's not working at the moment. The handset is very typical of this this is typical of this phone. I understand it was probably brought out in about the 1930s and gone through a few changes, but it became the common or the popular phone that was used in Russia in the 50s. I'm not very good at dates, so if I've got it wrong, please excuse me. The actual shape of the telephone is very reminiscent of design by Ericsson. But let's have a little look inside. Now, I'll tell you, I turned this over. I'm going to have to take this in parts because it is the most crudest phone I think I've ever seen. It is, well, I'm afraid I don't like it. It was obviously made down to a price. I'd like a working one of these as an example, but this one I don't think would be working at the moment. You got your cradle springs, 2 capacitors, anti-side tone coil, a little terminal block with your terminals, and that actually goes through to the other side. I'll try and turn this over if I can. A bit of difficulty here. Having the well, before I do, let's have a look at the dial. The dial 2 is one of the crudest ones I've ever seen. As I say, it works, but it doesn't. The return spring is missing. It could be probably got back to working order. The spring, it's the you got your 2 springs, your off normal and your pole springs. Sorry, this is a bit awkward too. Having all these things attached by the wires. There, I've got this a bit closer. There's more of the dial. You've got your sets of spring sets which are all on there. The regulator or the governor. It has also, which I took out to show you, it has got a cover which fits on like so, which I took off so you can see the dial. Now the got the bases now turned around the right way, so you can see what's in there. You've got a very poor quality bell. Really is poor quality. Even the two gongs are not put on straight. I tell a lie. The screws are in line, but as you say, the bell is made so it can be rotated to get the best position, so you get that lovely ting, which I talk about, without the hammer being resting after it's hit, resting on the gong. These two are well out of adjustment. The bell assembly is not one of the best ones I've seen. It looks like this has probably got soaking wet at some time, because there's a lot of, looks like rust on that. There's the other side of that terminal strip. You've got all your wires are terminating on there. You've got your dial cord comes through there, and also the wires from outside. You've got also on the dial, you've got a little number thing there, and if that wire wasn't in the way, you'd see it's got a date on there. There is a date there, which I think is 63. So it looks like 63. I don't know if there's any other dates. I think there is actually. It's very fiddly shaped. Trying to do these with one hand. I'll put it back that way around. You've got capacitors. I don't know if there's a date on there. I don't think there's a date anywhere there. I thought I saw a date on there, but perhaps I didn't.
No,
I can't see that, but that's the date on the dial, 63, which would tell me that is probably about the right time. The more I look at this, I think, well, it's so crude, and you haven't seen it all yet. The way the base is held on. Talking about the base, here is the base. We've got a diagram. It's not very clear. I do apologise, and in fact I think that's upside down. Yes. There's the diagram. It's not particularly clear, but I think we can probably find the diagram if it's Googled. This definitely must be one of the crudest phones I've ever come across. But being so crude, it's interesting. It really is. To put it back, I'm not going to put it back now, but I'll show you how it came apart. This obviously sat on the base. Now the base is metal. It's pressed steel. The top part is obviously Bakelite, and that is in good nick. I'd like one of these that are actually a working job. This one probably could be renovated. It's going to take a lot of imagination. Then let me show you. Now, I won't put it on, but the base itself, which is turned this way round, actually clips in on little pieces of metal, and they would go into those little holes there. So you have to press it in, so it's not even held on by screws. Very crude. This part is screwed onto the Bakelite part. So as I say, you'd be left with that all intact, but you have to clip that base plate on. Anyhow, that's more or less all I've got to say about this. They're not that rare, I don't think. There's several of them on Etsy. None of them say they're working. All the people that have got them are honest and say we don't know whether they work. This one was sold as seen, so I've got nothing to grumble about. It's just interesting that I've actually got an example of one of these. There's the dial I showed before with an unusual finger stop. They didn't all have that type of finger stop. And as you see, the thing obviously doesn't return. You have to return it manually. But the numbers remain stationary. They don't go round. So it is an unusual dial. It's also in the normal 1 to 0 with a Cyrillic writing included. And this is typical of the phones that are used in Russia. The cable is not a twisty cable. Sorry, it's in a bit of a state. It's plastic. Well used. As you can see, I haven't tried to, well, there's no point in trying to connect it up. It obviously won't work. This shows this has been like this for years, I should say, showing you the Litz wire. This is this wire I've spoken of before, which is used on telephone work, where the strands of wire are whipped around silk threads. Well, they're silk, but they're whipped around there. And the idea is that they remain less chance of breaking or fatiguing by the use. They do eventually, but they're longer. Anyhow, that's more or less all I've got to say about this phone. It's an oldie, going back probably to the 30s, 40s. It's called a Bagta, B-A-G-T-A, made by VEF, which made other electrical products, in Riga. That's R-I-G-A. Once again, thanks for watching. And yeah, it's a bit of an education, this one was. It was nice to know the case is not broken, so there is chance there that it could be renovated. The handset's intact. It's missing the proper earpiece. There's an insert in there, but I don't think it's the original one. The transmitter looks like the original. But anyhow, it's something to work on. The only really ways to get that going is if another one turned up in similar conditions, but with bits that are broken on this one, not broken on the other. I'm asking for a miracle, I think. Anyhow, thanks again for watching. I'll put this one up. Thank you.